What's up, everybody? I'm Reverend Nia.
I'm Minister Wallace.
My name is Reverend Tiff, and welcome to Millennial Conversations.
Millennial Conversations is a Bible study specifically for young adults where we teach through dialogue and have candid conversations from an emerging generation of leaders.
Be sure to repost and share with the hashtag RTMC. That means Read Temple Millennial Conversations. And don't forget to engage with us in the chat.
You can tune in to our Read Temple website, Facebook page, and YouTube channel every Thursday at 7 p.m. So grab your pens,
grab your notebooks,
and join us for tonight's rap session. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Millennial Conversations. I hope you have been tuning in all month long. We have been having some wonderful dialogues, some wonderful conversations with millennial men all month long. And tonight I have two of my special friends joining us tonight, and I'm going to have them to introduce themselves at this time. And we'll start with you, Kev.
Hey, everybody. My name is Kevin Gresham. I am currently working for the Metropolitan Baptist Church as their children, youth, and young adult minister. I also serve the federal government as a full-time employee as well. I must mention that I'm vocational, definitely. I am a father of two and obviously have a wife, and I'm thankful for her. Callie's Gresham and Callie and Clark are my two children. But I'm thankful to be here. Thank you to Pastor, to the reverends that are here, to my brother LeVar. I'm just so grateful and honored to be here. Thank you.
Well, what's up, family? LeVar Jones, and I salute my good brother, my sisters who are here, the entire Read Temple family. I currently serve as the Director of Teen Programming and Advocacy for Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington. I've been with BGCGW for about 10 years, but also have served in youth ministry, most recently at the New Macedonia Church with Pastor Patrick J. Walker. And I am not a father. I am not somebody's husband, but we praise God for the single ministry. And I'm glad to just be in this space with you all tonight.
Amen. Awesome. It's all right to be a part of the singles ministry. Amen. I hope those of you who are watching, he is part of the singles ministry. Amen. He is part of the singles ministry. Yes, listen, it's all right to do a little bit of that.
He is available. He is available, a part of the singles ministry.
The captions on.
Listen, guys, if you're tuning in again, make sure you share, repost, use the hashtag RTMC. That stands for Read Temple Millennial Conversations. Make sure you tag your young adult millennial men, especially those who are serving as mentors, those who would like to become mentors. If you yourself are a male who wants to start mentoring other young men, listen, won't you just type in the chat, it's me, off the top, off the break, to say, I want to be more involved in the life of some child so that I can help maybe change the trajectory of their lives as somebody has done for me. And so tonight we are talking about millennial mentorship and the importance of having and or being male mentors, and who better than these two young adult men to share on this topic. And so I'll just kick off the question, and LeVar, we'll start with you. What has having a mentor in your life changed your life in any way, and how so?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely made the impact and made the difference. I think mentors fill gaps, and so I've been on a journey where I am reconciling my past, my relationship with my father, good, bad, ugly, and otherwise. But in that, it has helped me to acknowledge both the men and women, who have been a part of my life and who have helped to shape, who have helped to heal. So I think some of those mentors God has sent to heal, but have really helped shape and refine who I am, my skill set. I think back even to teachers in elementary school, Burville Elementary School, greatest school in the Washington, D.C. area. Just want to shout them out. Class of, you recognize on the latter end how people mentored you. You may not have seen it on the front end, but you realize, I think, how they've impacted you and helped to shape, how you think, what you do, who you are, what values you hold. You recognize you hold on to something so tight, and then you look back and see that that was something instilled in you by someone that came into your life. And so I'm grateful. I gotta, and again, there have been men and women. I know we're talking about millennial men, but I'm grateful for the women who have helped to shape me. Reverend Dr. Jacqueline A. Thompson, senior pastor of the historic Allen Temple Baptist Church in Oakland, California. That's my spiritual mom. And so I know without her pouring, without her patience, without her preparation, I'm a Baptist preacher, I got 3 points already. Those moments really help push me to where I am. So I think we recognize, again, sometimes not on the front end, but sometimes you don't see them to the back end, the impact that mentors have had in your life.
Ken?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. The impact that mentors have had on my life is, it's hard to even value how much it really has had as an impact, because, I have a father. Now I'm thankful for my father, because that's the one that has really shaped and molded me. And he's been a real father, one that I've seen day in and day out, mistakes, successes. He is a pastor of a church, local church, Greater St. John Cathedral. I admire him. And it's just invaluable. Every time I make a decision, I think about what that mentor relationship was. And I just say, whoa, I remember my father doing this. I need to go left. He might not have gone left. He might have gone right, but because he went right, I know now to go left. It's just invaluable. And so I must say that my father is definitely the one that has helped shape and change some of my thought patterns. Just been amazing. Not just my father, others. I also played drums growing up. I'm churchy. I've been in church all my life. Sat watching folk play drums and at church all night, all day when I was obviously a PK. But there was this one gentleman named Leonard. Leonard, I call him Leonard. But anyway, his name is Leonard. But he was one that was also the one that would just take me under his wing and just watch him play drums, but also watch him with his wife and watch him with his children. And so I was being groomed without even realizing and knowing, but that's just the value of mentorship. When you have someone that does take you under their wing, you don't even realize you're getting nuggets all day, all night. And then all of a sudden I'm 23 and I'm like, whoa, Len did this. I need to do this. So it's great. I want to make sure I don't want to pivot, but definitely love what LeVar said. Having diversity in your mentorship is huge. And I'll say that because I have a spiritual mother as well. And I'm thankful for her. And she is always the one in my ministerial time right now that's pouring into me in a way that my father cannot. Just flat out. It's in a different way, a more delicate way in some points, and definitely different perspective. And so I'm thankful for that mentorship. But yes, I'll just say, it has reshaped all of my thinking, honestly, because I've been able to refer to them. Obviously, I have my own relationship with God. Don't get it twisted. I'm led by the Spirit. I don't want to take away from my own Christian faith. I don't vicariously live through these people, but I just cannot share how much of an impact. I have to share how much an impact they have had in helping me walk through this life that I've obviously now, I'm 35. So 35 years in the time that I am right now as a father, minister, just a community leader, if you will, just have referred back to so many principles and thoughts that they've shared with me. So definitely I appreciate and I love their mentorship and can't really even put a value tag on it.
Cool. So what about y'all are grown men now, but at some point, because both of y'all in Baptist church, I grew up Baptist too. Sure. Some point you had a youth leader.
Yeah.
You had a youth leader, and I'm not sure if Baptist churches have switched into having a young adult yet. But I think that's kind of one and the same.
Sure.
But you had a youth leader. Let's talk about the impact or how even vital a youth leader is. And I'm sure, and I'm going to mention this because it's gone viral. And it was something that happened at a school or something. And I believe it's a young lady. And she's trying to pronounce the word Philippians. but she said something like Filipinas or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody sent it to me and was like, see, this is why it's so important to have a youth leader, or why youth leaders or mentors are so important. And so I mentioned that because, not to say she didn't have one, maybe she just didn't understand. I don't know. But let's talk about the role of the youth leader on your lives. And then also the second part to that is talk about how that has shaped you now as youth leaders.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's critical. And I think, back in the day, Old Baptist Church it wasn't, the title wasn't there, the structure wasn't there. It may have been Deacon Willie Weddle, who was over the, I only made it to the Bobcat level of the Boy Scouts. I was done after that. But who ran that program. And also Reverend Barry Hargrove, consummate leader who ran the young males empowerment program at Shiloh Baptist Church, 9th and P Northwest. I mentioned those two men because I think there's both indirect and direct impact. As I mentioned, I was only in the Scouts for a minute, so Deacon Weddle only had me for a little while. Deacon Weddle was from the South. Deacon Weddle was loud, but Deacon Weddle loved hard, and he made sure to show that yes, Black man, you can smile, laugh, love, live, all of that. And again, we talk about sometimes not realizing those lessons until, two decades down the road, and you think back and realize, oh man, it was this person who may have indirectly helped shape me. And Deacon Weddle would be that for me. But Reverend Hargrove, who later went on to pastor in Baltimore at the Prince of Peace Church, really, again, covered. Wing was over me. And so I look now, and he passed on and transitioned to be with the Lord a few years ago. And it was not until that moment that I realized how much of what I do now is fashioned after how he ran that program. The way that he structured things, even down to little small things, the way he structured them, the way that he spoke and engaged with us as young men. And so, the church in the Black community has always been, I think, a breeding ground in ways that sometimes we don't really recognize, for providing those opportunities and for opening up those relationships with godly Black men, teaching young brothers. So even before it was youth ministry, we had youth pastors and youth and young adult and all, the nuances that we have now. I'm grateful for, brothers like that who just live. And I think I've heard that, already in the conversation now, that sometimes the mentoring is just living in front of people, watching how you treat your wife, watching how you handle your business, watching how you wash your car. Like, all of those moments matter, because all of those moments have lessons connected to them that either we get in that moment or that we get somewhere down the road as well.
Interestingly enough, I did not have a lot of male youth leaders when I was growing up in my father's church. There were a lot of female youth leaders. And so they instilled in me a lot, because honestly, they were, I'm trying to make sure I'm saying things right, but a lot of them were coming from a single space, let's just say that. And they were trying to instill in us how you needed to be as a male if and whenever you become the leader of your home, and how many times you have to fill in the gaps. So they were trying to obviously instill in us practical lessons. Obviously, there was biblical, of course, and that's one of the things that I think why, and I get to your question of the importance of youth leaders, is to still take the time to teach Bible and to teach relationship with God and to teach the basics, even if they're not, quote unquote, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this word, even if they're not limelight stuff, meaning, glitz and glamour, talk about salvation, all those things are not glitz and glamour all the time. But it's what's needed, because obviously people say all the time, well, y'all know the story, but really they don't. They really don't. They really need to know who David is. To be honest, they need to know who Jesus is, even though we think that's the main character. But you know what I'm saying? it's something that was really instilled back then that sometimes is not always done now. And it really informed me because a lot of times, and I'll say this because it was convicting for me, one of my errors that I felt in my earlier years was I was a PK, so everybody thought I knew so much. And so I got a lot of passes. And so now I give no one a pass because I know how ignorant I was at 20. and everybody for 12 years, 20 years gave me these passes. So the importance of youth leaders is very important because you need to be in the life of the youth or young adults, whoever, so that they can get some of the basics and ask those questions that some people just pass over. Okay, what is salvation? Do you really know what that is? And, you know, certain things that we just think they got from pastor in the sermon or they got from somebody yesterday. No. You need to go back over those things and ask those questions that seem silly, because some of the basics are being missed. And that's some of the convictions that I carry from my earlier years into these years now, because I realized so many people pass me without even asking questions. And until I got asked a couple questions at 20, that's when I realized I didn't really know much, or I forgot because I never had to, actually share it, if you will. They just told me. I never had to repeat it. Then so they just thought I was good, but I wasn't. So the importance of youth leaders is extremely important, because people need people challenging, not just challenging. People put a negative connotation on challenge, but I just believe people need to be challenged in their convictions, if you will, so that they might be able to live life for the better, but ultimately have purpose in why they exist. And I think that's sometimes missed in the youth community, because we think that some things are just, oh yeah, their parents told them. Well, that's a whole nother thing. I don't want to take my time, take much of my time, because that's part of youth ministry that bothers me a little bit, because parents just think the youth minister is it.
Yeah.
If you will, like, okay, Kev, you got him. All right, I'm leaving. Or Kev, you got him. I don't have to do nothing. No. Matter of fact, you're the real minister. I'm the support minister, because everything I teach could go out of the ear as soon as they get in the car. Anyway, so I don't want to go into this. I could go on forever, but I believe youth leadership is definitely important, and definitely should be in the budget. I don't care how small the ministry. I really believe there has to be something in the ministry for youth ministry, regardless of the size.
Yeah. Now, I want to throw in there too. I agree 1,000%. When I joined NewMass, it was funny. I had some of the young men that were members at Boys and Girls Club, who were a part of my mentoring circle, who came, again, because you share life. So they came to NewMass, and so I've been praying, look for a church home for myself. Felt led of the Lord, joined, went to the back, door opens, and then here come the two of the three that were there who had made a similar decision for themselves. And so we began to share that experience together. But you better believe I'm not going to just leave spiritual formation up to, did you catch it in the sermon? Before we go grab whatever bread we about to break, because them Bama's going to be hungry. Absolutely. Before we go bite any food, what did you get? What did you hear? What did you understand? What did you miss? What didn't you understand? What didn't you get? There's got to be, the connection. A good youth leader, a good mentor is a translator, and making sure that in the context, I needed that, because I was a kid at Shiloh at 5 on the front row, legs swinging, just sitting there. And I'm grateful for the moments where I believe it was absorbed, because my mama made sure, grandmama made sure I was there. But nobody leaned over and said, did you understand what the pastor meant when he said, weeping may endure for a night? Or do you just smiling along with everybody else? Because, Kev was a PK. I grew up in church. So I know all the culture. Right. But as a younger child, no one said that. No one checked in to say, hey, did you know what that means? Or to translate it in a way that would help me understand that. And so I think when we talk about mentoring, particularly in the spiritual context, for me, it's helped to understand mentoring is discipleship. They are literally the same thing. It is one, sharing life with someone, but also it is helping to shape someone. But you need both. You can't just shape and just do this. They got to see it. So I can tell you what a man does as a husband, as a father, as a responsible man in the community, but I then got to live it in front of you. The problem is we got a whole lot of this and not enough of us willing to live this in front of our young men so that they see where we do right, but they also see, hey, I messed that up. Let me show you how I fixed it. So I think we gotta both of those things run hand in hand. You got to be able to teach and help to provide spiritual formation, but you also got to have spiritual discipleship. You also got to share life with them. So yes, go spend the time and take them to Walmart when you're going to get the car checked or whatever, because in those moments, God moves and works. And he allows what you have been teaching and shaping within them to become real, to become practical.
You hit something really quickly. What you're speaking of is accountability. Mentorship provides accountability. And the reason why I have such value for it, for, I guess, mentee, is because I have value for it above me, a mentor to mentee me. And so a lot of times that's that humble place to know you need some guidance. you need help. And a lot of times, I don't know if everyone feels that they really want to be accountable to people. Yeah. And that comes in one of the reasons that a lot of people go unmentored because they don't want accountability. And I think that's one of the real, I would say, issues, even amongst our peers, right? I really feel that a lack of accountability is there, or they want the accountability to be towards something that they like, not to what they don't like, right? If you don't understand what I'm saying. So anyway, I know y'all got other questions. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Do you think?
No. This has been great. I'm just enjoying hearing what you both are sharing. I agree heavily as a woman. Of course, I have a mentor. A shout out to the elder, Kimberly K.R. Taylor, who has been my mentor for 19 years. And so that accountability thing is accurate. Like somebody that will check you, somebody that will pull you in the collar if you need it, somebody that will tell you about yourself if you need it, but also somebody that will love on you, somebody that will help guide you, somebody that will help give you practical tools on how to do life better. But there's someone who also affirms you, someone who also pushes you to reach your greatest potential. It's more than just saying, oh, go be great. They're showing you how to be great. And they're encouraging you every step of the way, even when you are cussing and fussing at 1 o'clock in the morning, even when you're like, I'm ready to give up. This is some crap for me. Like I'm good. I'm ready to just throw in the towel, to have that person that's like, yeah, no, this is not what we're doing. Right. And I looked at it as somebody who believes in me enough when I don't believe in myself. Right. Somebody who sees something in me when I can't see it when I look in the mirror. Yeah. Somebody who's like, I got your back even if mommy and daddy don't. And it's not to say my parents didn't. I'm just saying there was a point in time in my life in my early 20s where I was just like, what in the world is happening? I couldn't even find my place in the earth or figure out where I fit in, and was literally going through a major identity crisis. But I had a mentor that was there who knew how to talk to me and knew how to pour into me. And she basically told me, I am for you what I wish I had when I was your age. And then she encouraged me to do the same. Now that, I'm just a couple of steps from 40, be for somebody else what you needed when you were.
But also I would like to add to the importance of embracing what different mentors bring, and different mentors in general. I think one of the issues, right, that mentorship has also posed is that people are not really discerning about who they want their mentors, who their mentors should be, right? Like you have some mentors who literally will leech off of their mentees. You have some mentees who just want certain mentors to bring them to whatever place, or it's cool to show up on social media saying, I know this person and that person. And it's like, the reality is you need someone who is going to pour into you for your growth and development. And they don't have to necessarily be in the same field. They don't necessarily have to be the same gender. They don't necessarily have to be going the direction that you are going, but you need a sound counsel, wise counsel, right? It is scriptural, right?
Yeah.
You need wise counsel to help you navigate this journey called life. And I think, that is one of the big, and I wish we had time to go through what makes a good mentor, how to choose one, because I think some mentors also forget too, the mentees also have a choice in choosing them. It's not just a one-way relationship, right? But we don't have enough time to go through all of that. But that's what I wanted to add to the conversation too. Be open to what mentorship can look like and who it can look like from, because there are so many blessings in disguise, and there are so many blessings that are just outward and front facing, but you need discernment to really decode that.
If I could, Reverend Dr. Cynthia Turner is my female mentor, and I was serving at a church, and I thought, I'm in the right, so I'm gonna just share this with you, and you're just gonna confirm, how you do, you just can't think, you're just sharing. And so she was like, well, Kevin, let me ask you a question. Well, why did you do that? I mean, I can't share it, but why did you do that? And it flipped. My point is, my father might not have ever said that. My other brethren might not have ever said that, but it was from the female perspective that it was dealing with females, if you will. So it was great that I had a mentor from a different perspective, that could pour into me and correct me and get me straight. And I'm thankful for that, because the reality was I wasn't coming in thinking I was getting corrected. I was thinking, you're just going to support me and, whatever, right? No way in the world. That's not how it went. So I'm pushing the point of diversity, and not to your, I don't want to say to your liking, or to your strengths. You get the guy or the girl or the female or the male that's just going to push you and your strengths or whatever. No, we might need someone that can kind of scroll in or zoom into the weaknesses and actually feel comfortable sharing that with you. So I'm just grateful for that, and you just mentioned it, so I had to say.
Yeah, so I ascribe to this thing called having a care team. And so just as much as people have pastors, they have primary care physicians, they have dental hygienists. I also believe a therapist should be a part of that. A mentor should be a part of your care team, because again, I can call my mentor at 2:00 in the morning and tell her exactly how I feel, exactly how I feel it. No judgment. I can't call my therapist at 2:00 in the morning and do that. I can't call my pastor at 2:00 in the morning and do that. I can't call my mom and dad at 2:00 in the morning and do that, right? And so I think mentors and youth leaders are very, very, very important to everybody's care team as it relates to holistic health and well-being. Oftentimes, even again, drawing back to May, because it was Mental Health Awareness Month, but we should always be aware, because mental health matters, even if it's not May. But always be self-aware enough to know what you need at any given moment. And that's regardless of what field you work in. And that's whether you're an educator, if you are in corporate America, if you sit with a suit and tie in meetings all day, whatever you do, at some point in time, you have to know that we are all placed on this earth in order to then be something for somebody else. That everything we go through, it's not for us. Both of you have mentioned in this space the fact that much of what you learned helped inform you as grown men. That you're now in your 30s and maybe older than 30, for some of us, just a little bit, right, LeVar? But you can still draw back to and pull from some of the things you learned directly and indirectly. And I'm glad, Tiff, that you mentioned in this space about being discerning about mentors, because I also believe even if you make the wrong decision, that you can still learn indirectly from that experience from the wrong decision. And that's just, I believe that with God, there's nothing ever wasted. God wastes nothing. So even if you make the wrong turn, even if you make the wrong decision, there's still something to be learned. There's still something to gain. There's still something to glean, even from a bad decision. I'm sure somebody's going to preach that. Make sure if any of y'all preach that, make sure you just say, I heard Reverend Nick say on Millennial Conversations. And then, and do what you got to do with that. But I think that even in that, you can learn a lot. And so I think it was one of the Tyler Perry plays. He said something about you learn something, you just learned in reverse. So it wasn't directly, this is what you taught me. I learned because you taught me the wrong thing. And so I learned as a result of watching the wrong thing. LeVar, I saw something creep up in your Chania. Come on.
Listen, you step in all those spaces. And I alluded to it earlier, just, on the back end of making sense of the relationship, I have with my father and all of the brokenness that it was, growth to even make that statement. Shout me out. Out of those broken places, God will often use that to become your mission. I 1000% believe that God has put a burden and a fire in me to mentor young Black men because of the brokenness I experienced in my own childhood. But here's the thing, and I want to make sure, and folks who are listening, who are mentoring, who are considering, there's a difference between broken and bleeding. God can use us as we are broken, but we can't bleed on the mentee. We have to safeguard them while teaching them the lessons that we've learned in whichever order we learned it. I learned it in the right way from someone who taught me. I learned it in the reverse way from somebody who taught me what not to do. But as I am processing, as I am being healed through that process, it is my responsibility to not bleed on the mentee. They cannot bear the brunt of my trying to process and allowing God to heal whatever is broken. I can still be broken and God work through that space, because that's what turns on that fire. That's what ignites that space for me to be, passionate about it, to answer the phone at 1 o'clock in the morning, to jump up out the bed and go pick up, go pick the youngin' up before he ends up in some situations he doesn't need to be, because I understand what it means to not have, to be in a space and not have. But I want to caution everybody and make sure that we are cognizant. There's a difference between being broken and bleeding. We can be broken and be used by God, but we cannot afford to bleed on our mentees, particularly when we are walking with our young men.
Man, that's good. And we certainly do appreciate your transparency in this space. Kev, we'll give you the last word before we wrap up, because it's definitely almost that time, but we'll give you the last word. If there's anything else you want to add in this space.
I mean, he spoke of having a burden, and I think that's what this, for me, mentorship for me is about, is I don't have any other choice but to get back. I don't really, I failed out of high school twice, right? And that's a story of a testimony for me of what God did for me on a turnaround situation. But I tell people all the time when they ask me to share as how I went from failing twice and in college, bleeding university and GPA. How do you do that? God really helped me, walk me through this picture of what would have happened if I continued down the road, obviously, and then helped me move away from it. And it was, I don't want to say as simple as that, but it was God that really turned it around. But he also shared, well, listen, you didn't fail for nothing. you failed so that all of the failed can know they can be redeemed. And it's not just about grades, of course. Obviously, it's rejection. Obviously, it's just turmoil, whatever it is, because I also have a path where I failed out of high school. So that I call that my first dead end experience. But I also had a situation where I never really was saved until I was 20 something years old, which I had this other dead end experience where I really wasn't saved. I just adopted a relationship with God vicariously through my parents, being a PK. And then it took a book, Not a Fan. I'm sure many of you might have heard of that book, that understood, just walked me down the line of, Kev, you've been in the stands in the stadium. You are a fan of Christ. You aren't necessarily a fan. You really don't have your own relationship. You've just been working through others. And so anywho, it was one of those situations. Those two situations had put a burden in me to go get those who have just churched themselves to death in thinking that's a relationship with God, to those that have failed out of high school, failed out of life, failed in their job, failed wherever they are. Go get those people and let them know it does not have to be the end. It's not over. It really can just be the beginning. You can truly find opportunity through adversity. And so I just believe that's why I am in this space right here. That's why I'm serving like I served all of the more, because I've been burdened with the blessing of coming out of the ditches in my world. In my own mind, it was the ditches for me because I was in a dark place. Failed, people rejected me. I couldn't get into nowhere. My father is this local great person in the area and I'm the failure. It was one of those situations for me that it was just in my world, it was the worst. And so how a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people feel that they have no hope, and a lot of people feel like it's over. And I was in that space, but that's not what God told me in that space when he was trying to turn things around. So that's what I believe for those that are thinking about mentoring. What did God bring you through? Where did God bring you? Where did God bring you from? What is going on that God pulled you up out of? That's the way to go get somebody else, because he didn't pull you up out of that for nothing. He didn't redeem you for nothing. There is a way to use what you've gone through to help someone else. So I'll just leave with that.
Amen, Kevin. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kevin and LeVar, for just such a great dialogue. So we talked about mentorship relationships, and while mentorship relationships are important, the greatest and most important relationship you can have is with the greatest mentor, which is Jesus Christ. To live a life of liberation with an eternal mentor who will walk with you and talk with you for eternity, living a life of liberation, living a life free of guilt and shame. And so if you want to get to know this Christ even more, who we have discussed and talked about, and if you want to get to know this Christ, please feel free to let us know in the chat. But also, if you are someone who wants to rededicate and recommit your life to Christ, please let us know in the chat. And also, if you are looking for a church home, Reed Temple would be more than excited to receive you. And so if you fall in line with any of these three things, at any of these three calls, please feel free to go to reedtemple.org/cares, and someone will reach out to you to help you get to know this Jesus, or to get to know this Jesus even more, or to just introduce you to this Jesus that we love so much and who we call our greatest mentor. And also, if you have enjoyed this conversation, have enjoyed other conversations, and want to be a blessing, not just to the Millennial Conversations, but also to the Reed Temple family, please feel free to sow, and you can do so by following the instructions and the directions on the screen. And also, just thank you. Thank you again, Kevin and LeVar, for a wonderful conversation. Thank you to our wonderful host, Reverend Nia, for just, guiding our discussions on this. And thank you all. Make sure you join us next week for another episode. It is another conversation happening, but for another episode of Millennial Conversations, as we will continue to dialogue with millennial men. Take care and have a good night. Bye.